Writing an angel check is easy. Knowing why is the flex. Angel investing. Underused, misunderstood, explained badly. Angels Decoded, an educated and raw take. In cahoots with Play Money. So last year, I wrote 2 angel checks because I loved the founder energy and I was curious about their market space, and they were fine investments. But afterwards, I thought, you know what? Anyone could have written those checks. They didn't need to be mine.
It's interesting to look at if you were to step back and get all of the things that are misnomers, industry folklore, things that bounce around, and that impacts the investment industry at large. The flow-on effect is a lot. So the focus of what we're doing as part of these conversations is putting the spotlight on the things and turning those myths into facts. And the facts we're talking about today is how do you step into angel investment and not get caught up in all the noise that surrounds it?
Yes, you don't want to get caught up in the noise, and you don't want to look at the things you hear about professional investors and let those operating rules that they have to operate by keep you sitting on the sidelines. And at this point, I have talked to thousands of, I'll call them new angels, but they're the people that are right near the sidelines but haven't jumped over yet. And there's a million myths out there. We've talked about a bunch of them, but one that I hear keep coming up repeatedly is, do I need a thesis before I start investing? I heard VCs had theses, so I can't start investing till I have one myself. It comes up in every Angel 101 class I do.
And if you were to look at just simple language in a VC, VCs have a thesis for 2 reasons primarily. One, when they're fundraising with LPs to get capital that they deploy. Second reason is from a founder perspective, they'll support companies that typically run in one vertical. Sometimes they can be agnostic and broad, but you get a sense of their expertise, how they support, and the type of companies that they're aligned with for an investment. As an angel, if you're thinking about the role that you play, it's very different. So let's lean into the angel part of it there. Let's start with a simple step. You're investing as an angel investor. You're thinking about the type of company you want to go into. What are some of the simple filters that you could put through about why you invest in a certain company?
Even go a further step before that. Instead of thinking, gosh, what filters could I use? I think the biggest first step is you don't need to have a thesis when you start. And in fact, for angel investors, if you talk to a large group of them that have been angel investing for a while, they will all tell you that their thesis, they all end up with a thesis. And we'll talk about what those look like. Their thesis ended up evolving from the act of investing. So it's like the flip of what you think. Don't let the thesis gate you from investing. Start making small investments because your thesis and what turns out to be important to you is going to evolve from there. Which is a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah, and if we go back to some earlier facts that we covered in our first few episodes, it was the portfolio breadth of angel investments that allows you to have a higher chance of success. So that 30 to 50 bets is the sweet spot at what point you start to see a return, which is that edging that investment across different companies and having a percentage drive a large return, some that don't, and that's what investing is. So at that point, you need to have some runs on the board to be able to understand, one, how you get money back, but 2, where your passion lies. And they're the 2 things that I see in that first step.
Yep. And passion can be a big part of that. And precisely because of what you said, the only best way to predict success, financial success out of an angel portfolio is not any specific criteria of the company, obviously clean, well-lit space and all, but it's the number of investments you make. So those first few investments are just fine to make without a thesis because they let you discover that thesis. And the more angels I talk to, the more you see those diversity in the thesis, right? If you think about it, typically I'm going to have an industry area I am passionate about, or more importantly, I have an expertise in. So of course, that would be my thesis. As you start to play out, I've heard so many different things from different angels. Just in the last few weeks, I had one very experienced angel tell me her thesis, again, through experience in investing, has become, send me your last investor update. I want to see the quality of that update. What wins and losses are you sharing? Am I seeing a learning trajectory. That's not a thesis she came into the market with. She came in knowing consumer products and CPGs and brands. And, she's got some amazing investments in her portfolio. She's got Invisalign, she's got Ollie, like she's got good investments in there. But her thesis now revolves around what learning trajectory am I seeing from the founder? What communication trajectory am I seeing from the founder? Show me your last 3 monthly updates. That's a big gap and not something she could have ever known coming in the door.
Yeah, that experience takes time. We've covered it as well in maybe last 2 episodes. You don't go and do a course on angel investment. You don't need to spend a whole bunch of money. The experience that you get by doing it, and you've talked about small bets, put down $1,000 and get to know
Mhm.
the process, the founder, all the jargon that comes out of it, all the things like you'll learn. And if you're an accredited investor, then that money is not going to wipe you out. So being simple and smart with what you're doing, because what I've also heard you say is that the default seems to be invest in things that you know. But can you talk to us about your point of view on that?
I mean, everyone's different. As long as you make the first few bets and decide if you like it or not, and then if you like it or not, as long as you commit to building a diverse portfolio, there's no wrong way you can go. For me, Angel is about as much about learning and discovery as it is a financial tool. So for me, I wouldn't want to invest in just what I know. I want to invest in things I don't know because that's where I learn from and that's where I get excited. But what I see a lot of investors doing that I think is really healthy is they've taken things they know and changed it to like, not where they have deep domain expertise, but where they have personal life expertise. So I talked to a customer last week and she's 10 investments in, baby check writer, looks like an everyday person. You would not know her on the street to be an angel investor. But she's got a point of view as a mother and a consumer and a community leader about clean materials and the future of health and families. That comes from her lived experience. So, in the companies she was betting on, she was like, I don't really have a thesis. I'm not an expert. And then she gave me a whole lowdown on PFAS and clean ingredients and the companies she invested in. And I was like, damn, she's actually got more of a thesis and more expertise than most VCs I talk to. But it was picked up from her lived experience and her values. I guarantee she's got the next Invisalign or Ollie in her portfolio right now, but it was the expertise and prediction on the market was collected through her everyday life and what she sees her friends doing that own all that consumer power and what she's wanting for her family and their health. So, like, again, thesis, fancy word, deep spidey sense on the market. Oh, very different to develop that. And it was exciting to hear her because she wouldn't say she had a thesis. It was wonderful.
I love that she's created this petri dish of an experiment, and all the things that have gone in there have been investments, her personal life experience, career experience, and it sounds like it evolved as she went through. And you learn different things about yourself. And I'm a brand strategist. I spend a lot of time thinking about storytelling, and part of storytelling is purpose. And you can have a company purpose and a human purpose. I don't think many people out there would understand their true purpose as an individual. And angel investing, and the more bets you put down, you start to get a real sense because you natively chase after things without even thinking twice about it. Those first few investments for you, can you talk us through first 5, first 10? What are some of the things that you discovered about yourself as far as what you cared about in that process?
Yep. I probably learned the most from the investments I shouldn't have made. And be clear, shouldn't have made doesn't mean they've gone bad. In fact, some of them maybe I haven't made long enough ago to know if they're going to go bad or good. It's because how I felt afterwards, right? I invested in these two companies out of a true point of curiosity. I thought the market was clever. I thought the founder was super passionate about what they were doing. But then it was the next morning effect. Like the next day I woke up and I was like, I don't care. I get the updates from those founders and I'm like, I don't care to be on this founder journey. And I somehow think, though, they might have been the most important investments I made because I was, following a syndicate lead I thought was sort of interesting, or I was, poking on an area here. I wanted to be part of this group. And I learned those things don't matter to me. It doesn't matter that the syndicate lead is saying they have a bunch of conviction and they're sort of a fancy syndicate lead, right? Which is like a fund manager. Syndicate lead's like a fund manager. I was like, those investments taught me I don't really give a shit what the expert says. Okay, cool. I've now learned that about myself, so I can block those out. I can look at things that resonate with problems I care about. And that was a super important learning because you can see a whole lot of things as an angel and you need a way to cull through them. And I mean, part of the journey of an angel is understanding yourself better. So there was one woman though in my last Angel 101 who said something so insightful. And she was like, this is why I have a thesis. She said she, like me, started off learning her thesis as she goes. And she saw stuff that was interesting and she invested in it because she says, why not? And what she's learned over time is when those investments go to zero, it makes you feel shitty because you actually sort of knew better. When she's had investments go to zero and the company fit in her thesis, where she had real conviction around the space and the founder, and it was like a founder she would back again the next day, she called it her emotional armor when the company fails. She has had those kind of companies fail, and she was like, I'm cool with it. I would back that founder again. It reaffirmed her confidence in herself. And yeah, emotional armor was such an important word she used.
Great term because it is an roller coaster journey, depending on how much you're thinking you're going to get a return, how much
Mhm.
capital you're deploying, and the potential risk that you define individually. But your conviction changes over time, right? What you're describing there is that there's a sentiment that starts to build up as far as the right and the wrong bets. And sometimes it may not be something that drives a return, but it's something that gives you passion and purpose. And you contribute and you want to help the company. And you've talked previously about endometriosis and investing
Mhm.
in a business where it may not be the company that goes on and changes the world, but that progress has such a positive flow on effect that it drives change across a whole industry. And that's important for us to be able to have that impact. And that can be sometimes a greater purpose than a financial return.
100%. And it's funny because like when we talk about money, I feel like we've been shamed into having to project ourselves as talking about money as the only purpose of money is to make more money. And if we are not laser focused on that, we are somehow lesser than. That's a bunch of BS. We make money to be able to bring us joy and to create a world around us that we want to be in. And if that means driving more money from that money, because that's how you roll, dude, totally fine. You go be you. But to feel shamed of saying, well, actually, I want my money to do a whole range of things, particularly
Mm.
when my needs and the needs of the people I care about are actually taken care of. Heck yeah. That's actually like probably on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self actualization and fulfillment and being part of society and community. It's probably the most healthy thing for us. And that's where, Angel is so particularly interesting because it is investing and also it can live hand in hand with your identity about yourself. I had this woman, we talked about this earlier. I wanted to tell this story before and I didn't. I talked to this new angel a couple of weeks ago, and she had been using a robo advisor for her stocks, and it bought her following markets, and she ended up with a chunk of defense tech and weapons companies and private prisons in her portfolio. And she switched over to a new, more sort of holistic identity forming wealth manager. And the wealth manager put these stocks on her naughty list and says, what do you want to do with them? These should not be in your portfolio. They're not your values. She was horrified. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting on this. My money is going to help this. No, I don't want to wake up in the morning and feel like that person. So guess what she did? She took her naughty list of stocks, like actually labeled naughty list. She sold them and now she's investing that money into startups, into things she cares about because her money is part of her identity and what she does with it matters.
It's humbling for me to hear that. People sometimes get so caught up in the financial return that they don't think about the flow and effect of where their money actually goes, right? And the industries that they're supporting, what they actually do. So, right now, the state of the world, to speak bluntly, like it's shit out there. And
It's a shit show, no kidding.
so let's not go into that. I want to keep this positive, but investing in something that has purpose and gives you pride in what you're doing and you can see the impact that it's making, like that hierarchy of needs, we all need some joy. So let's focus on a bit of joy. So, Cheryl, to wrap up, I'd love to hear from you the outtake, the hot take that angels
Yeah.
should think about when it comes to a thesis or not a thesis and where they go to next with their decision.
Yep. I would say this your angel thesis doesn't have to be entirely financially ROI driven. What you do with your capital when you invest says, creates your identity and says things about you when you're not in the room. And the only way to figure that out is to actually start doing it.
I love that. The legacy of the things that are said when you're not in the room, that's one of the most powerful things you could have as far as meaning of life. I'm going to go into deep mode here. It's like, that's beautiful.
It's exactly where isn't that the point of money, is to create joy for yourself and those around you, create change, create a better place to be 10 years out? Like, yeah.
This is beautiful. I feel like Cheryl, Kellond, and myself are sitting around a campfire right now, toasting marshmallows. So it's time to wrap, though. My name is Andy Walsh from Startups Decoded. Cheryl, thanks again for these beautiful insights. I love these conversations.
What a fun way to start the day.
Angels Decoded, a weekly podcast for people learning the craft. Angel investing made easy. Subscribe, then decide. Angels Decoded, in cahoots with Play Money.